He joins us in the studio now. Good morning.
I'm sure I could come up with some cool nickname, though.
Yeah, what would it be? It's just Alexi G, or probably. You can go with that.
Something like that.
Alexi G.
Alexi G is in the house. Thanks for stopping by. What brings you to town?
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me. We're in Bloomington today to talk with some small businesses. We're in Bloomington to talk with some folks at State Farm, and we're also going to have a rally on campus, which we're excited about. One of the things we're trying to encourage young people to make sure they come out and vote, to get engaged in campaigns, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican. We just want to make sure that the next generation gets involved. That's one of the reasons I'm running for the United States Senate. And I just think, as we talk about decisions that impact the future generations, whether they're environmental, whether they're social, most importantly, economic decisions, which will have an impact on our generation. I just think we need folks to step up, to stand up, to vote, to get engaged. I think that's incredibly important.
Midterm election, it's tough to get people involved. Are you seeing a groundswell? It's certainly not what you would see in a general election, but I know you spoke over at Champaign yesterday to a crowd of about 60 or 70. Were you happy with that crowd? Or?
I actually was happy to get 70 kids, 70 college students on a beautiful afternoon is pretty, I was encouraging. Yeah. But again, we need to start building a buzz.
A lot of the polls have you sort of neck and neck with Mark Kirk. So how important is it to get the vote out? I mean, do you think that will benefit you or Kirk?
I think, quite frankly, it'll benefit us. If we can build enthusiasm with a lot of young folks, with a lot of people who understand on environmental issues, on economic issues. My campaign from day one has been about creating jobs, making sure that not only do we create the next generation of private sector jobs right now, but that we also do everything we can for those families that have lost jobs. I think that's an incredibly important distinction between myself and Congressman Kirk, who's been in D.C. for 20 years.
With the anti-incumbent sentiment and a lot of sort of, I guess, disillusionment, if you will, among some Democrats with Obama and some voters who maybe crossed over or independents who voted for him. Are you concerned that if people go to the polls that that sentiment will translate into more votes for Kirk?
I'll tell you why we're up a few points in most of the polls. Congressman Kirk has been in D.C. for 20 years, and I can tell you what I hear from folks, whether it's in Central Illinois, Southern Illinois, they are sick and tired of Washington, D.C. politics and politicians. They think that Washington, D.C. has forgotten what it's like for folks on Main Street. They think that Washington, D.C. politicians have forgotten the challenges that regular folks face, and what I've heard is a more of an anti-Washington, D.C. fervor. So, if you love Washington, D.C., you love the way it works, then Mark Kirk is your guy.
But you're coming from the state of Illinois, and the state of Illinois and the Democratic Party has had problems. I don't know if you've heard.
I have.
And the sentiment toward Democrats in this state is pretty much mirroring what people feel about the Democrats on a national level here. How do you battle that?
Well, it's important to remind folks, when I ran for state treasurer, I ran against my own party. The machine didn't want me there. We fought against the anointed candidate. I ran as sort of an independent. I think I've run a great office in the state treasurer's office. We've made it the most proactive office. We've actually cut our workforce by 17%. We've made it more efficient. We've run it more like a business. We've added programs that allow people to stay in their homes. We've helped encourage small businesses to get off the ground. We've started a financial literacy division. We've really made some impactful changes, and we've done it not in a Democrat or Republican way, just in a good government sort of way.
All right, I'm going to let you respond to Congressman Mark Kirk. Just recently proposed 5 top priorities to control federal spending. And I just want you to react to each one of them. Number 1, enact a line item veto. What do you say to that?
I am in agreement with him.
All right. 2, end earmarks.
I think that's I would be in favor of that, but I just think that's a very general statement. And what's important, and not to cut you off, but as he goes down his list, it's important to also keep in mind people's records. For the last 10 years, our national debt has more than doubled. And Congressman Kirk voted for every single one of George Bush's budgets. When we actually went from record budget surpluses to record budget deficits, more was added to our national debt during those 8 years in the history of the United States combined, every administration combined. So we can talk about line item vetoes and earmarks, but the truth of the matter is we can't afford these record deficits, and that's not a Democrat or Republican issue. Our kids cannot afford these record deficits and debt. So what we need to do is do everything we can to turn this economy around right now to create jobs. I'm in favor of a better education system, investing in innovation, entrepreneurship, small businesses, and then long term we have to get our arms around these exploding deficits.
All right, require a supermajority to spend beyond our means.
Well, there was a bill in Congress, a pay-go bill, which is a common sense approach that says for any spending you have to identify a source to pay for that. Congressman Kirk voted against it. So to say we want a supermajority when he voted against pay-go, again, which is a common sense proposal as far as I'm concerned, to say if you're going to have new spending in Congress, we have to identify a way to pay for it. He voted against it. That's why I guess I don't understand.
Or how about we're going to spend this money and we have to propose a cut of equal value somewhere in the budget.
Right. Well, either way, whether it's a cut, whether it's ending tax breaks for corporations that continue to ship jobs overseas, whatever it may be, the pay-go would make sure that any new spending was either paid for or that we wouldn't increase spending. I think that's a common sense. That's how folks run their businesses.
Okay, we're on number 4 and again, this is
How many do we
Kirk's
have?
proposal 5.
Okay.
Enact Senator Simon's balanced budget amendment.
This goes back to a common sense pay-go bill. I think any new spending should be paid for.
And then the last thing is establish the Grace Commission with special procedures to implement approved spending cuts. Reestablish that.
Again, not to sound like a dead horse,
You're
I
right.
think all this can be alleviated by, number one, common sense approaches to government, understanding what's needed, transparency in government. If we do, for example, I had a proposal to create a national infrastructure fund. The way that infrastructure is funded now, it's earmarks, it's congressmen and senators getting money back for their area, for their district. That's why you saw a bridge to nowhere. You see, 50-mile roads from a congressman's house to the highway. I had an idea to create a national infrastructure fund, which would be for all large-scale projects in the country. To get the politics out of it, we'd have geologists, economists, urban planners. We'd have transportation experts grading the large-scale projects and making sure that those are paid for, making sure that those are done in the order of their in necessity and priority, as opposed to just political expediency.
But isn't that what the Department of Transportation should be doing right now?
It should be, but again, the way Congress works, because of earmarks, because of poor spending, congressmen throw projects at the end of certain bills, and money comes that way. And again, in some instances they're needed, but in many instances they're more for politics than they are for necessity. And meanwhile, we have the American Society of Engineers has given our national infrastructure the grade of a D-. So we have to fix our roads, our bridges, our schools, and we can put people back to work right now.
Okay, we're talking with Illinois Treasurer Alexi Giannoulias, the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate seat. You're in town to talk to small business. What are you going to tell them today? President Obama recently, it looks like he's going to propose another tax break for small businesses, letting businesses deduct from their tax bills 100% of what they invest in new equipment through 2011.
And that's something that I would fundamentally agree with. Look, I come from a small business family. My father passed away, but he started a small business 30 years ago. Small businesses are the economic engine that drive this economy. I am a pro-business Democrat. We need to do everything we can to incentivize economic growth, to incentivize job creation. I think the permanent extension of the research and development tax, I think it's a step forward.
We had Edgar Norton, who is a finance instructor at Illinois State University. He's a regular guest on our afternoon show. And one of the things he was critical of the Obama administration is for having these sort of short-term tax breaks, but no comprehensive policy. He suggested that we need more meaningful overall comprehensive change, including better ways to expand our exports. And, frankly, we hear daily from the farmers that the administration is sitting on trade agreements and doing nothing with them that have expired, and that more needs to be done to open up markets.
Well, you touched on a few things. The first is, I think that his proposal today calls for a permanent extension of the R&D tax credit, which I think again is a positive sign. I do think there are trade agreements that we need to move on. I do think we need to focus on exports, because the only way to get out of this economic recession is to increase growth, to increase demand. And we need to increase demand here, ideally. We need to have more made in America, but we continue to ship jobs overseas to China and India, and I just don't think that's going to help our economy. We need to focus on exports, but also increase demand in any way as businesses. So I don't necessarily disagree with that.
How do you keep a company from going to Mexico when they can get cheap labor down there? I mean, you can't stop them.
No, but we can invest in the industries of tomorrow, in green industry, green technologies, the jobs of tomorrow. China's smart. They're now the largest producer of solar panels anywhere in the world. They're getting ahead of the curve. They know where this economy is headed. And let's be honest, manufacturing has changed forever, guys. Financial services has changed. A lot of the jobs that we've lost in this recession, and I hope I'm wrong, but they're not coming back. Technology is changing. So we either get ahead of the curve, we're more innovative, we invest in new industries, or we fall behind, and those jobs are going to be continued to be created overseas.
So for example, another thing we hear from the farmers is, the tax incentives that got the ethanol industry going have expired, and now people are pulling back, and they're not making that investment anymore. And the same thing with biodiesel.
Well, there's I spoke to the corn growers here in Bloomington a couple weeks ago, and to the Illinois Farm Bureau. And one of the things that we all agreed on was increasing the ethanol blend mandate from 10% to possibly 12 or 15%. That's the biggest priority for corn growers on the conversations I've had with them, and that's something that I fully agree.
But the administration has said the science isn't there yet to say that it's not going to be harmful to vehicles, so they've been sitting on it.
Well, I'm telling you what I talked about with the corn growers, and that's something that we agree with. So I'm not here to defend everything that the administration does. I'm talking about getting some fresh leadership in the U.S. Senate.
Senator Dick Durbin said yesterday that if they're serious about cutting back on costs of running this country, that they'd have to look at cutting subsidies to farmers. Can you say you agree with that?
Well, I think it depends on what those subsidies are. I think we have to understand that farming is the most important industry we have in Illinois. As state treasurer, we focused on increasing access to capital for farmers. We have our low-interest loan program for farmers, something that's worked very well, one of the largest in the country. I think we need to do everything we can to bring down costs for farmers and to make sure we increase production.
All right, we're out of time. I got to ask you, though, one question here, because you played basketball with President Obama.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is he a post-up player? Does he face the basket? Is his back to the basket?
He's more of a face-up player.
Face-up. And do you ever defend him?
No one defends him anymore. We just let him go. No one wants Social Security, Secret Service shooting at you, so we all let him go.
That's exactly what I said this morning. I said, you can't give him an elbow or shove him because they're going to be right on you.
The best way to make sure you never get fouled and you win every game is to run for president of the United States and win, because everyone gets out of your way.
All right. Good talking to you. Next time you're in town, welcome back.
Thanks,
we'll welcome you back to the studio.
And again, I think the last thing I want to say, we need to get rid of the partisan politics. Let's just get the right people in there. Let's move this country forward. No more Democrat, Republican. Let's just get things done for people.
If every politician that came in here and said that,
that's how I feel.
Well, yeah, I know, but everybody says that, but we can't seem to get along. And I wish, honestly, I get so tired of it.
You and me both. Can I tell you something? That's one of the reasons that I'm running. I'm not running because I want to, make more money or see my name in lights. I'm not running because I want to be something. I'm running because I want to do something. If that means I'm in there for one term, so be it. I'm there to help people. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that I'm doing.
Good luck. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much, guys. I enjoyed it.
Alexi Giannoulias on WJBC at 7:26. Money news from Wall Street now. Market Watch.